Welcome to the FARcast here at Chadron State College in the great outdoors on campus. I'm here with Alex Helmbrecht, and I'm Daniel Binkard, of course. We're doing a little bit of a different venue, trying to keep some physical distance between us. You know, Alex, I wanted to say you have a showering problem, but that'd be kind of rude, so we'll just go with that.
No, this is my quarantine mustache, and we're trying to maintain our social distance.
I haven't brushed my teeth in weeks, so it's good to have that.
Yeah, I can't even tell. You're just like my 3-year-old son. Who needs to brush teeth when you haven't left the house in 6 weeks?
Exactly.
So how you been, Daniel? How's the semester going?
It has been a really interesting change. You know, it feels like mid-March was just here, and at the same time it crawled by. So I don't know, where am I right now? What is going on? I'm still healthy. You're still healthy.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, feeling good. Just a lack of sleep, but that happens when you have a 6-week-old baby.
Oh, sure.
And, so that was an interesting thing. But having a child during a pandemic, but everything is well, and my wife and her mother are doing great. So, but yeah, the last week has been busy. We had a virtual commencement that premiered on Saturday, and I checked it this morning at close to 1,500 views already on that thing, which is great. And I think that I've seen a ton of photos on social media of people pausing when their name is on the diploma, and then they tag themselves or the college on that. So I think that that's really cool. I was glad that we could do that. You know, when this whole thing started in March, I was nervous that things like commencement and Ivy Day and musical performances, theater. You know, I was really looking forward to the theater play that they were going to do, those back-to-back ones.
Yeah, the theater show was supposed to be the two shows that were interrelated, shown back to back. And when it became clear that they weren't going to be able to do it in person, the next step was, okay, let's try to do a staged reading of it, and then that would be something I would live stream. And we were making initial plans, and then that kind of fell apart too, and it was just like even that wasn't really going to be feasible. So it was too bad to lose that play. Hopefully they'll be able to do that particular set of shows again.
Right. Well, I mean, you were a student here, and you've worked here a long time, just like I have, and the spring is just such a different feeling than the fall. Like the fall is busy, and it's certainly a vibrant campus and everything, but it's kind of the beginning. In April and in March, students who've been here for 4 or 5 years can begin to see the finish line, and there's a lot of excitement building. The weather's nicer, so you see people outside. My
yardstick for it is always softball season, because we get done with basketball season and it's still short days, and then we get into softball, and each new softball weekend is a little bit closer to summer break. Longer days, better weather.
Yeah.
And those can be long softball games to broadcast, but it's always satisfying, and knowing in the back of your mind that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we have some downtime and some good games to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that all fell apart too.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you even look at the communications that generate from the college during the month of April. You have a lot of stuff coming out of athletics.
Yeah.
You have obviously a lot of stuff coming out of our office related to institutional news. There was a Cape visit. There's all these things that happen. And it's just, it seems like everything just takes a back seat to this very unfortunate public health crisis that we're in. And so that's why I was so proud of our department's efforts and administration choosing to go forward, and everyone who pitched in with that virtual commencement, because these students really deserve something. I mean, you don't know the impact that your college has on you until several years later. And to have the rug pulled out from under a lot of these students with 8 weeks left in the semester is just such a tough thing. And it's not just CSC students, it's everywhere. And so I was really glad that we were able to do that. The project really came through without a hitch, and we had about 4 or 5 days to plan, and then you filmed for about a week.
It went fast, but as quick as we put it together, it was smooth, and I was so happy for that.
Yeah.
And we had anybody who came in, we were reading speeches off the teleprompter, and that can be disconcerting if you're not used to it. I've only done it a few times myself, so like when I did my short message, I thought, okay, I can do this, but I gotta take some time to get used to it. And everybody who had their longer speeches doing theirs, fairly smooth.
Yeah,
I was
they
pleased
looked like
with it.
naturals.
Yeah.
They really did. And hopefully it was a good viewing experience for everyone. And all those who did graduate, once again, congratulations from
Absolutely.
us, because you certainly deserved it. 2020 will probably be a year that you will never forget.
Yes.
And so hopefully the same goes with the commencement. And hopefully we can get everyone here again. You know, maybe this would be a nice space for it. We're sitting in the Klein Center Amphitheater, which is kind of part of the footprint where Daniel and I had our first office when we started.
That's
here.
right. If I look at the parking lot off camera here, yeah, I was right about, there's a tree there, I think, where or something like that.
Yeah, I always remember that there's like a junction box or something.
Yeah.
I always remember that was kind of on the western edge of the building, where you could kind of enter that hallway to get to see the print shop guys, Bruce and Craig. So.
Yeah. I remember there's a historical photo I came across, and it wouldn't have been too long after they tore down the south half of Klein, and they had a commencement exercise out there. And it'd be nice to have some of those outdoor exercises. They used to have them over at Memorial Hall, over on that side of Of course, the weather is always the factor in May. And here it is, what day is this? Mid-May, and we're overcast. Might even rain on us if we're not careful, which is okay with me. I'm not looking forward to the hot days coming up.
No, yeah, there's 2 seasons in Nebraska, summer and winter.
and road construction.
Right, the third season, road construction. Yeah. So what else have you been up to? I think you worked with our graduate assistant, John Murphy, on an employee recognition video. That turned out really nice. Another event that unfortunately has been postponed to a future date. Always kind of fun to get together with our colleagues, have a good lunch, and honor those who've won the various awards, teaching excellence. And then HR has a pretty cool program with the Eagle Impact Award winners. But so that was a really nice video that you and John put together.
I gotta say, John has been a real help for us, being a graduate assistant. Now, is he here the full year? It's kind of all blurring together last fall now.
I know. I talked to my brother actually on the phone the other day, and he said, "What day is it?" And I said one of my favorite lines from Billy Madison, I don't know, October?
Yeah.
I mean, it seriously feels like every day just kind of runs together.
It does.
But yeah, he began in January.
That's right. It's just been the one semester.
Yep.
But he was a good help for us, and I know he's been doing really good things helping out with athletics over on that end, so I was glad to steal him away from there for a little bit. And hopefully we'll get a chance to work with him again coming up in the fall.
Oh, yeah. He'll be back in the fall, definitely. So. Yeah. It's kind of hard to believe, as Daniel mentioned, the weather today, but it actually is the summer semester at CSC. So I think that began on Monday. So I assume it'll get warmer this week. I haven't really looked at the weather forecast.
Yeah. I'll take a few days of rain still. Let things green up a little bit more.
Well, as we mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic has kind of altered everything on campus and really in everyone's lives, both professionally and personally. I went back actually this morning and looked, and the first communication that we sent about it was on March 3rd. We sent that to students and employees, and that seems like it was 5 years ago.
Yes.
And it was just a little over 2 months ago. And that month of March, particularly that week of spring break, the first spring break, and then the second extended spring break week, felt so long to me. I don't know how they felt to you, and I'm sure it did for everyone else on campus as well. Things were just changing by the hour.
It was something. I had taken 2 days off to get a little extended weekend over that spring break, and no matter if every 15 minutes I would check my phone or check the news on the computer, and there was a new change, and I was looking at, what's the athletics broadcasting schedule. I think there was about a half hour there where we were thinking, we'll do games without an audience, and then we'll stream the games like we normally do, and that'll be the public feed. And then that would just gone too. So it was real fast change. Time crawled by, and then I want to say April flew by. Yeah. And now we're in May.
Yeah. In our department, March, April are busy for every department on campus, but they're really busy for us because there's a lot of stuff going on. We want to cover a lot of events, and there's just a lot of news happening. We were getting ready to roll out the Panhandle Advantage
That's right.
with WNCC, which is a great program. It makes transferring very simple for those students in these programs. The initial ones are elementary education and some business programs. And as a former transfer student to CSC, that's a huge benefit, because I had to retake a couple classes that unfortunately didn't quite align with the stuff up here. And so really it's kind of making a seamless transition. And we didn't get to announce that until mid-April, and we had plans for that to go out that week after spring break. And so
I suppose the advantage is we could do any fine tuning we needed to the messaging.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say that's the ray of sunshine on it.
Yeah. I mean, the point I was so ineloquently trying to make is that best laid plans are just plans, and when there's stuff that happens like this, when a major crisis affects every aspect of life, it's the only thing, and it should be the only thing that you're working on, but you almost get fatigued from it. I can certainly remember, like, I just would go home at night and I wouldn't even want to touch my phone. I wouldn't even want to turn on the television. And I sat in our living room and read a book by an author I really like, Drew McGarry, about his trials and tribulations of being a father, just because I needed some break from my own reality.
And we don't even have it that bad, too.
Right.
I mean, not to diminish what all the medical people and everyone else is doing. I mean, our stuff is really small potatoes in that larger scheme, but this does affect all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just so many stresses involved with it. But, in hindsight, I honestly think that we did the best that we could. I mean, given the information that we had. And I don't think you can say that about how you handle every mass communication project that you're working on. I think this one is so unique that there's just so many different elements to it, and they're always changing. And so I really commend everyone on campus who worked towards those efforts. And I really commend the students and the employees.
Yes.
Because when the ground is shifting under you everywhere, to still be able to adapt, I think that shows a lot of grit and a lot of tenacity that is going to serve these students and our employees well in the future.
Yeah, it definitely will. It's one of those things where you have that emergency happen, and I think the positive tendency of it is that we don't hem and haw as much when we know we've got to get this done, and we're gonna go and do it. And if we make mistakes along the way, we're gonna fix those as we go, and the next cycle of it will be even better. But there's just a little less uncertainty, regardless of how much uncertainty there is overall. That we have a job to do, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and it was such a strange time for me personally. My wife was 9 months pregnant at the time when we were working on all this stuff, and our daughter was born on March 30th, and it went great. I mean, it went well. Honestly, the only weird thing that happened was in the middle of the night, all of a sudden these nurses would come into our room and they would have masks on. But other than that, it was fine. Brittany and I were worried that I wouldn't be able to be in the room with her during the delivery. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But like if say for instance you were a midwife or a doula or something, you could not go in with a spouse and the wife. There could only be one other guest, and so.
Right.
But it went well, and we got home and we're like, well, this is life. What's the phrase? The new normal now, and that's exactly what we're in. And I was just so thankful that we were able to be safe and secure about that, and that Brittany was able to get in and get out, and nothing bad happened. So on to the next thing. I'm really looking forward to the summer. I'm looking forward to when we have our annual retreat for our department. We always discuss a lot of great things there. Yeah. We usually have a pretty good lunch, and then we always have a good time in that evening when we can kind of unwind a little bit. And so I think probably everyone on campus is looking forward to times like that when we can actually get together again and give high fives or give hugs or do whatever. It's just get back to the little things, I suppose. Yeah, what's your summer looking like?
Well, normally I try to do a little traveling and find a new spot to take photos at, but I think it's going to be more around the area. Yeah. That's all well and good, save a little money. Although I think we're supposed to be pumping money back into the economy too. We'll have to figure something out.
Well, gas is cheaper now at least, so we've got that going for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then things, in the fall with the announcement that came out a couple weeks ago that students will be returning. And granted, things may look a little different. We may have,
Sure.
you might have classes outside or whatever. I don't really know, but I do know that the college and the system office are working hand in hand on that, and they're going to do what's best for the students and what's best for the employees. And so I'm kind of encouraged by this, years down the road. I think that public health is something we've always maybe had in the back of our minds, but now that it is so forefront, I really think that there's going to be some positive things come out of this. And like what Dr. Kinbacher said in his commencement address, we'll get better from this. We'll learn from this, and I'm very hopeful that will continue for us.
Yeah, me too. I think you can't take it for granted.
Yeah,
and we'll be thinking about it a lot more clearly, hopefully.
Yeah. So we're sitting on the Klein Center green. I don't know if this is maybe the southern edge of the amphitheater, maybe for its technical term, but
on the upper level.
So this is where we kind of started our career, and it's kind of where we honed our first journalistic skills on the College of Chadron State. On the campus. The Eagle used to be located in the Klein Center, and you'd have to traverse the metal stairs that if we're frozen, you might perish if you fell from those. So.
Yeah, those side steps were a little sketchy, but it was the perfect smoker's balcony, I'll say that.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And if you were a journalist in the early 2000s and you didn't smoke at least one cigarette, you weren't doing your job right.
Yeah, I think I had a few cigars out there back in the day.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Daniel. You started school here, and you're a graduate of here, and you've worked here.
Yeah, because I've worked here about 10 years now, or going on 10 years plus. So it's been an interesting transition, seeing multiple generations of students come through here now, and certainly the big change for me was going from photography for the college has always been kind of the backbone of what I do. It's always there. But I started out doing a lot of graphic design, whether it was for print or the web. And then in 2012, we started doing CSC Live. And I kind of fell into that. And I'd done a little bit of video work previously, but I built that out. And then about a year after that, the shift was, all right, I'm doing far, far less graphic design, and video is going to be the main focus. And that's how it's been for 8 years now. So that I really like that because it gives me a chance to interact with the students a lot more closely. For a few years I taught a photography class, taught digital photography, and that was a good way to interact with the students. But I always have this group of students working with me or working for me, doing CSC Live camera work and other aspects of those productions. So I kind of have, what would it be, an ear to the ground on how the students are feeling and what their lives are like. As I get older and older and farther from when I was in college. So that's been an interesting process.
Yeah, well, and I've always, I commend you at how well you train your students. I think one of the things that is difficult to incorporate into a workday is time for training. Yeah. And you have to make it a priority, just like if you want to, kind of have documentation of what you do on a day-to-day basis or weekly or monthly or whatever. Like you have to work that in because it takes time. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, and it's continuous too.
Yeah.
I'm always working with the students on if it's a simple camera move from left to right, let's say, and I want to examine how they're doing that, and are there ways to improve it, to smooth out that motion? Is something as simple as that, or as complex as some of the other things that we do for these productions? So you do the initial training, and you're always keeping an eye on that. What can we do better? How can we make this? How can I make the experience better for them? And how can we all make the product better for our viewers?
Well, and I really like the fact that college relations, CSC Live, and print shop, other aspects of college relations, really allows students when they work for us to see a tangible product.
Oh yeah.
Case in point, Devin Fulton's remote connecting program. I think he's got 2 or 3 of those. Those are really great videos. It shows how students are reacting during this time. He had a nice interview with Jim Powell, our Vice President for Academic Affairs. And, that's something that Devin 10, 15 years down the road can look back on, and who knows what his career will be at that time. I'm sure it'll be something involved with communications, though. And saying, hey, that was kind of cool what I did. And then if he's in a position similar to ours now, maybe he'll be able to kind of give back to a student or some young person who's wanting to kind of do something like that in that scenario. And so that's what I love about the process.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure to work with Devin because he's got some good ideas on aspects of these videos, and if I can help him make those real, make those into a real product, that's a success.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the best parts about working with students is you kind of, when you've worked with them enough and you see it click.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of, you could have a stressful day or, you know, coming out of a bad meeting or whatever. And if you see a student figure it out, that is really rewarding.
It is. And it's always nice because you can have a bad day as part of your normal work day. Then you go in to cover the volleyball game or whatever that evening. And I try not to bring anything negative with me working with the students. And while maybe I'm stressed out at the beginning of that, but by the end of the night, I'm feeling satisfied because they're all doing their thing, and we're just putting out a decent product, if not a great product.
Oh, I think it's certainly great, and your student workers are really well trained. I filled in for you. Excuse me. I filled in for you once this semester. Before the world turned upside down, and I barely had to do anything. I just sat in there, and your students did everything. So I felt like a true supervisor.
Yeah, the beginning of the year is always a little interesting. You know, hopefully we always have a few that are coming back from previous years, but there may be a time where they've all graduated and it's a completely new crew, or at least partially a new crew. So you're doing that training process, and one of the things I like to do is have my students train each other. Say like on the replay system, I've got somebody who's familiar with that from the past year. I say, all right, you show him how to do it now, and then I'll be ready to step in if there's anything unclear. But in a lot of cases, they're able to empower each other. That's
great. That is great. Yeah, I get student workers every now and again in my role. Just kind of due to my job here, I'm kind of in and out of a lot of meetings, and so I'm not able to really give a lot of guidance to students, but I do enjoy it when I get to work with them, because when I was the SID here, I got to work with some really great students, and I'm thankful you took over CSC Live, because I used to have to put student workers on top of the Miller Hall building.
That's right, the old days.
to film the football games, and viewers get a lot more out of those games now than they did back then. It used to just be a single camera setup that would pan, and so now there's graphics and multi-camera and replay. So
it's kind of nice being able to add to that. I remember, and you still see it from some schools. I think we're really fortunate we've been able to devote resources to make this a really good product. And you know, you see like the old single camera style. All right, you shoot the play and then you switch over to the scoreboard to show where that's at, and come back for the next play, and that's kind of jarring.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do better than that.
Well, the FARcast has been pretty fun this year.
It has. I really enjoyed getting to know some of these professors and staff members, community members. Hopefully we can get some more community members like Travis Hensey. It's really, there's a lot of great people out in this small community that we're part of.
Yeah, and this will be the last one of this academic year, and likely the summer too. Daniel and I need breaks, and so. But we'll resume that in the fall with some CSC employees, and like you said, it'd be great to get some alums or really anyone. I mean, it's just love talking to people, and I've not heard a negative comment about it yet. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but I think we're doing a good job with it, and hopefully people continue to watch it and listen to it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stories from people, Alex, tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I graduated from CSC in 2005, and then worked at the Star-Herald in Scottsbluff for a couple of years as a sports reporter. Very similar to one of your former student workers, Preston.
That's right.
And then in 2007, I had become a little bit frustrated with the newspaper. Basically, the compensation just wasn't there. It was a tough thing living on my own, and being in my mid-20s and not really knowing many people in Scottsbluff, because I worked 3 in the afternoon to midnight basically, and so I was at a time where I was like, well, I'll just go back and get a teaching degree, and my parents lived in Kearney, and I was gonna transfer to UNK and get a teaching degree and teach English. And on a whim, I called Justin Haig and said, hey, I see that the Khan's retired, and should I apply for that job? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll be a reference for you. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I applied for it. That was in like March or April. I had not known the time that sometimes college hiring committees take.
Yeah.
And so I forgot about it. And I was getting ready to quit the Star-Herald in August. And I got a call from Brad Smith, the former athletic director, in mid-July saying, hey, come on up and interview for that job. And I was like, what job? And he said, the sports information director job. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be up there tomorrow. And so things happened pretty quickly, and I came up in 2007. That was my first year was really interesting. That was Danny Woodhead's senior season, as you remember.
Yeah, you get the whole
media circus.
Media circus.
Oh my gosh! And I'll never forget up on the practice fields. They're in much better shape now than they used to be. They're kind of, it was dusty grass and thistle going up to one of them.
And we were still recovering from the fire that had been
That's right.
up there the year before.
Yeah, that's right. And Danny was up there with CBS Sports. They wanted to do a really dramatic shot of him walking off with his helmet and the sun in the background. And so we had to go up there late in the evening, and because this was in August or September. And we walked up there, and there was a huge snake that came right through like our legs. And I just saw my career flashing before my eyes that like SID lets snake bite star athlete, like I thought that was the end of the world right there. But that's probably the worst thing that happened that year. I mean, really everything worked really well. I got to work with you and Dwayne and Justin a lot, obviously Craig and Bruce in the print shop at that time. And then Khan, we still shared the office, even though he retired for the first time in 2007. And then he retired again for the second time in December of 2019. He's always been around. He's always been a constant. And I used to kind of get annoyed with that presence, but I came to terms with the fact that he just cared so much about stuff he couldn't let it go. And so instead of kind of pushing that away, I really tried to embrace it. And Khan has become, well, he was always a mentor, but he's really become a valued friend. And so I would say if I had any advice for people when they come into a job, don't think you know everything right away, and use the resources that you have. And I was so lucky that I had great resources around me and great people. And I think I attribute that to any success that I've had today. Is not just me, it was the people around me. So I've been at CSC ever since. I became the Director of College Relations in 2014. My title changed. And so what? I've been here, I'm starting my 14th year, I think, in August.
It's funny, it feels like it was still just, 12 months ago maybe that you had changed over from SID to college relations, but it's been 6 years now.
I know.
Crazy.
It's nuts, yeah. But it's fun. I mean, it's a great place to work. I'm lucky my wife works here. She has a great job. She loves her colleagues, and Chadron's a good place. Chadron State's a really great place. It's given me every opportunity that I could have wanted professionally. So,
it's been a pleasure working with you.
Yeah, you too, Daniel. You too, and I'm eager to get some more of these FARcasts going. And I suppose if anyone's listening to this or still listening to this or watching it, if you'd like to be a guest, just contact me or Daniel. Yeah, we'd love to have you on. Maybe we'll do more outdoor scenes. Who knows? It'd be nice to have some students walking by. So.
Yep, that's the next step. Yeah, the summer's always a tough one. We were looking at another spot on campus, and I can just hear the lawnmowers coming. I think they're getting closer.
Yeah,
but, that's one of the things in the summer. Lawnmowers all over the place.
That's the signifier. What is that? The thing that slams the...
Yeah, our boy, I'm drawing a blank now.
I wanted to say cue card, and it's not cue card, so...
The clapper, I think.
Yeah, the clapper. That's our clapper.
I need to look this up. We have one. I don't use it very often. Usually if I need to synchronize sound, it's just one of these. Low tech.
Oh, we should get one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. It's been a great year.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Be safe.